Okay, so now let's talk about the next idea. So let's say that you were asked to evaluate this expression. So 100 factorial divided by all of 96 factorial times 4 factorial. If you have a calculator, go ahead and punch this in and tell us what you get. Okay, you guys getting an error?
Yep.
Okay, so you should be getting some kind of error. Some calculators will just say error. Some calculators will be more specific and say overflow error, for example.
That's too many numbers.
So what does this overflow error mean? Any guesses?
It's superseding the integer limit that this calculator can handle.
Okay, very good. So it turns out that every calculator, as well as every computer, has a certain number of digits that the calculator uses to store that number. And it turns out that as soon as you enter in 100 factorial, the calculator is going to try to store that value in the calculator, and it will exceed the capability of the calculator to store just this number. And that's what we call an overflow error. So it might be able to store the number approximately with the number of digits it has, but it can't store the number precisely based on the number of digits it has in the calculator. So every calculator has a number of digits that it allots to store every number. So in this case, so it turns out that even though 100 factorial is too big for the number to store, too big for the calculator to store, that doesn't mean that the actual answer is too big for the calculator to store. It just means that along the way, the calculator gave up. So we should temporarily put the calculator aside and try to simplify this by hand in order to get the answer. So let's talk about that. So this 100 factorial, by definition, what does that mean?
10 factorial times 10 factorial.
100 times 99 times 98.
Yeah, so this is an interesting point. So 100 factorial, you might be tempted to say that 100 is 10 times 10 and the whole thing factorial. You might be tempted to distribute this factorial operation across each of these and say it's 10 factorial times 10 factorial. But it turns out that that's not true. So this is very tempting to do, but it turns out that that's not true. So you can't distribute this factorial operation across this multiplication. So this is a good thing to know not to do. But by definition, the 100 factorial itself means that you're starting with the number 100 and you're multiplying down one at a time until you get to 1. So this means 100 times 99 times 98 and so forth, all the way down to 1. So I'll just list enough so we get the idea. So that's what 100 factorial means. And then on the bottom, same idea. 96 factorial means we're starting with 96 and we're multiplying down until we get to 1. And the 4 factorial means we're starting with 4 and multiplying down one at a time until we get to 1. So now, ultimately, what we're doing is we have a whole bunch of numbers and the only operations are multiplication or division. There's no addition, no subtraction.
So can you just cancel?
Yeah, very good. So if you have only multiplication or division, you can choose to divide first because division is a type of multiplication and you can multiply numbers in any order. So you can multiply numbers in any order, and because division is a type of multiplication, you can divide first. So in this case, you can choose to take this 96 here, and you can divide by this 96 down here. And those simply divide to 1, and essentially you're quote canceling. So canceling is nothing more than you're choosing to divide first. And what other numbers can you do that with?
95 through 1.
Yeah, all these numbers from 96 down to 1 exist both on the top of the fraction and the bottom, so you can divide each of those numbers first. So you can do it for all these numbers from 96 down to 1, you can divide first. So in one fell swoop, you got rid of 96 numbers on top and 96 numbers on the bottom. Any questions? So now you're just left with a multiplication of 4 numbers on top divided by a multiplication of 4 numbers on the bottom. And your calculator can definitely handle this. So at this point, you can get the precise answer by simply typing in the multiplication of 4 numbers on top divided by the multiplication of these 4 on the bottom. So go ahead and type this in.
Around 3.9 million.
That seems kind of high.
Okay.
I'm not sure that. What else do you guys get?
Yeah, I got 3.9 as well.
3.1, okay, good. So about 3.9 million. So that results from just multiplying 4 numbers on top, dividing by 4 numbers multiplied on the bottom. So that's one way that you can get the correct answer, is just by typing in this expression. But then you could recognize that the top expression of these multiplication of 4 numbers, you're starting with 100 and you're multiplying down one at a time until you have a total of 4 numbers. That's actually the same as what operation that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the permutation, very good. So that's 100 permute 4. So this top multiplication is really the same as 100 permute 4. And on the bottom, you have the number 4 multiplied down one at a time until you have a total of 4 numbers. So what operation is that? Yeah, that's a factorial because you're multiplying all the way down to 1. So this is 4 factorial. So at this point, you can type in this division, type in 100p4 divided by 4 factorial. You'll get the same answer as before. This is the second way that you can do it. And you'll definitely get an answer, not an overflow error. But you could also recognize that this entire division, there's an operation that does the same thing. There's one operation, so what is that operation? Yeah, that's a combination. You have a permutation divided by a factorial, where the argument of the factorial is the same as the second argument of the permutation. So this is the same as saying a combination, so this is 100 combination 4. So you can type in this one expression into your calculator and get the same result. Any questions? Okay. So that's how we deal with, if we have factorials and we happen to have an overflow error because permutations grow very quickly, or factorials grow very quickly. That's how we can handle getting the correct answer by simplifying by hand. Okay, any questions? All right, let's move on then.